the 11th grade. Well, I think of school as like a treasure hunt, and there are obstacles and monsters and sort of these mystical things that happen on this type of journey. And even through all these obstacles, close to the end, I still have to defeat this vicious kraken. This vicious kraken guards the underwater treasure that I so desperately want and need. This portfolio defense itself is a vicious kraken, and going to the upper house will be my underwater treasure. And even when I defeat this vicious kraken, the journey isn't over. During my 9th grade year, I struggled with shutting down when working with other students, and I had just become comfortable sort of getting into the scene of public speaking, and I procrastinated a lot even though I turned most of my things in on time. I get frustrated easily like I did in 9th grade, but now I feel that I'm more in control of my frustration instead of my frustration being in control of me. And that before I did work just to try and be advanced and higher up, but now I feel like I care more about the depth and the quality of my work. This is my claim. Because of my growth over 9th and 10th grade year at Metro, my ability to think critically and express myself creatively has allowed me to question the world around me, then analyze, which makes me mentally and personally ready for the upper house. To think critically is to be able to draw connections using evidence to support your ideas and consider many solutions, perspectives, and sources. To express yourself creatively is to be able to find new ways to put your ideas out there, sort of like thinking critically, but it is more of a way to show and get your point across. On my treasure hunt, these were some of the few obstacles, and me specifically, I believe I dominated. I chose my Freedom Means project for my inquiry. To inquire is to have a sort of burning question that you need or want to be answered through research. And for my research, I chose my cancer project. To research is to not only find information, but to find information in as many ways as possible. And lastly, I chose my chase video for my creative expression. And to express yourself creatively is to take an artistic approach, whether it's a piece of writing like a poem or a drawing or digital picture, just in some detailed way. This is my Freedom Means project. This artifact was completed my freshman year in my global studies class, and at the time in the class we were learning a lot about philosophy. There were the philosophers Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle, who were all in ancient Greece, and we learned a lot about the principles of Taoism, which is a form of Chinese philosophy and religion. What we had to do with this project was write 3 paragraphs and an overall claim on what we believed freedom meant. And I said that freedom meant justice, facing out reality, but comes with the responsibilities of control. And so when I did my 3 paragraphs, they were obviously on justice, reality, and control. And then I drew a picture for each paragraph that represented what I was talking about. This was all put on this poster paper for me to present to my class. And one of my paragraphs was late because I procrastinated, but in the end I still had it for my presentation, and if I could go back and do it all over again, I would have not procrastinated and actually did my work. The leadership skill I used with this artifact was managing projects effectively, and what this leadership skill means is that you're using project planning skills, creating goals, and working making things work so that your overall project is a success. And I did this all when doing this project by keeping all of my work. All the reading and the notes that we took on philosophy were to be later on used in our paragraphs as evidence. And I would keep mine in a special portion of my binder so that I would have it all together and it would be easier for me to pick and choose. The academic skill I used was analyst, and this means that I was able to break my evidence down into parts to connect it back to my overall claim. And I did this by putting together my paragraphs. I had to not only connect my evidence back to my overall claim, but to the topic sentences of the paragraphs themselves. And here's a piece of my paragraph on justice. Justice is something that tends to our needs. What we call justice is whatever produces and maintains happiness, and it's part for a political community, Aristotle. The man who said this was the son of the doctor to the king in ancient Greece. Aristotle was a student of Plato, then later on taught Alexander the Great. Aristotle soon became Alexander's enemy because Alexander thought he was a god. Aristotle was later on accused of atheism and fled. The statement that Aristotle made is 100% correct, because if laws or rules are not liked by people, they don't think it is just. For example, kids at school think they should be allowed electronics, so they think the rule that bans it is unfair. Everyone wants things to go their way, but it's impossible for justice to tend to everyone's needs. Because this artifact allowed me to manage my project, I learned to set deadlines earlier up for myself so that I can have everything done and not worry that things are going to be late. And I know that when I get older in college, they won't go for late work, like at all. So in order to manage my projects effectively, I will have to do that. This is my cancer project. This artifact was completed my freshman year in my integrated 2 science class. And at the moment in this class, we were learning about mitosis and cell biology. The unit's essential question was, how does cancer affect us and how can we prevent it? We learned key terms related to this question from the words malignant, meaning cancerous, to the word benign, meaning no harmful effects. We learned that cellular growth, being uncontrollable, could possibly mean cancer, and that cancer is not always a death sentence. We took all this information and researched the cancer we chose. We had to find out cancer location, effects, symptoms, who most likely had it, preventions, diagnosis, treatment, and the difference between the body with cancer and the body without the cancer. I chose pancreatic cancer, and this is my PowerPoint. Sorry, it goes really, really fast, but I just want to show you guys this is what I did. The leadership skill used with this artifact was communicating effectively and persuasively. What this leadership skill means is that you have accurate work with developed ideas that are organized in a way to consider your audience. When doing this project, I did this by creating a proficient PowerPoint presentation. I showed everything that was required in this PowerPoint, and I used headings to know what the slide was about, pictures, and color coding so that people would know how the seriousness and what I was talking about. And the academic skill I used to complete this artifact was my research skills. I used them by knowing how to search on Google. When I would search for pancreatic cancer, I would get a lot of things like Wikipedia and Wiki Answers, which they tell us not to use. They try to tell us that, and I just put like minus signs in front of things that I didn't want, and I put like plus signs in front of things that I did want, and it made my research like a lot faster. And sometimes if I needed, like I knew what I was looking for, something specific, I would put the words in like quotes so that they would come up in that exact order. And the leadership skill of communicating effectively and persuasively has helped me to understand how to get my audience's attention, since I use pictures and colors in my PowerPoint to communicate what I was saying. Nobody got bored, nobody got uninterested, or things like that. As for communicating effectively and persuasively outside of school, I still can do that, especially when I try to convince my mom when I really want to go to a concert. I gather all the information I need, like how I'm getting there and back, time from beginning to end, who's going, where's the venue, and if I do that, plus a good argument, hopefully I get a yes. This next artifact is my chase video. This artifact was completed my freshman year in my digital media class. And in this class, we were learning about iMovie, a video editing software, GarageBand, an audio software, and the structure of narrative. We learned about camera angles and how they affect a movie, a bird's eye view, which is where a camera is overhead, is good for like car chase scenes where you can see the surroundings and everything that's going on, and panning, which is going left to right or up to down, or when you pan down to up, it's good for like seductive scenes where you get a view of the whole body. This artifact was actually a 3-month process where we were learning about iMovie. We practiced by creating title videos of Michael Jackson songs, and I chose this song Bad, and what we had to do was create scenes where it just said the lyrics, like what he was saying, and it had to be in sync with the song. And then I had to replicate a beat called The Funky Drummer on GarageBand. And after experimenting with the two softwares, I started to create my song that went with my chase video. And after that was completed, I got into a group with 3 other students, and we put together a storyboard where it showed scene by scene with the camera angles and the actions of what was going to be our actual chase video. And then we shot our chase video scene by scene, and after we took the footage and edited it individually into our own individual chase videos, our own individual songs. And here it is. It's kind of long. Okay, I'll just stop it there. I will stop it there. Leadership skill I used with this artifact was collaborating productively. What this means is that I participated and worked well in a group by contributing with my skills and strengths and supporting our success. With this project, I had to do this. Luckily, I had a group that I really had fun with and that I really wanted to be with. They were all my friends, and I contributed to the group more when creating a storyboard. I am the idea for the whole chase video. And another person brought props, and there were some who knew more about cameras, so they would more often work them. And So we all had a part to play in this artifact, and I think our parts fit together perfectly. The academic skill I used with this artifact was editing. To edit means to change and make a revision of a previous version of your work to make it proficient or higher. And I did this by taking out unnecessary scenes since we had to limit our amount of time. And I was able to put title slides that had words also add special effects and transitions. College work habits. With college work habits, I'm not perfect, but no one is. I need to work on not procrastinating and trying to stay after class to get things done faster. I need to figure when I can stay after school because my mom is really strict on that since we live really far away. I have to make a compromise and maybe schedule a lot. And setting deadlines earlier for myself will help me with the procrastinating, which I've already begun to do. And there are some good things. There are some things I'm good at with college work habits, and like meaningful and organized work. I make sure to keep everything from one unit in one section so that it's just already all put together and it won't take me forever to find things. And I can make it my own and not just have it all facts, and put my opinion and how I feel about things in my work. These are some of the things I hope to succeed in when I go to Upper House. With my WLE, I want to be successful and have fun and do something that will benefit me in the future with a future career. Before, I only saw science in my future, but now I feel that I've become to notice that I'm sort of a creative writer, and so anything that has to do with either of those two will be nice. And I want to try to focus on college while I'm in Upper House. Everywhere I turn, there's someone always asking me, where do you want to go to school? And when I say that I'm unsure, I feel really unprepared. And so for Upper House, I want to try and learn as much as I can about how college works and what college would be best for me and what I'm trying to do. And like I said before, my journey won't be over even when I defeat my Kraken. I still have grad portfolio, and I want to pass grad portfolio with distinction. I want to, yes, I do. Especially after doing this and stressing a lot, and I want to make sure that I don't make the same mistakes I did. And for me to have everything in my archive, everything already ready. I'll have to keep, and for me to do this, I'll have to keep my word, like, be serious, because sometimes I can be goofy, even though some people say I'm mature, but I have to persevere when things get tough, because, like I said, I get frustrated easily, and I'm still working on that. I know that if I try, I can do it, as long as I don't get lazy, and I'm working on that too, because sometimes I can be lazy. As for what I bring to the Upper House, here they are. Creativity is a big part of the way I think. I try to be different and go beyond my limits at times. I don't try and think outside the box. I try to think outside this room at times. And I hope to show others how to do the same just by telling them that they don't have to hold back. They can be themselves. Like, that's how creativity comes out, when you're just true to yourself. And I can also help people understand many perspectives. I feel like I try to keep in mind not only how I react to things, but how others will react to things. And I won't make anyone do something that I'm not willing to do. Just by this, I can teach people why I do things I do, and hopefully why other people do the things that they do. Lastly, leadership is pretty big, especially at this school. I feel that I could start to set a good example and be more active in school. I'm already on SLC, but I feel like we could be doing more for this place. Like there is a lot of work to do with this place, and I feel like we should be doing more. I have learned so much over the 2 years here at Metro, but when I succeeded at getting all A's from my first semester of sophomore year, which I had been trying to do forever, I realized that it was really hard. It was harder than I thought it was going to be, because in middle school I was used to getting straight A's, but then I got to high school and I started getting B's. I don't like B's at all. And B's may seem good, but I don't like them at all. And it's really, really hard. I thought it was gonna be easy, but it wasn't. And I learned that I had to take that extra step and do more than the average student did. And I'm proud of this, and will continue to strive for straight A's. Thank you. Questions?
Okay, the room is open. Audience, now is your chance. Ask some questions to Jerica, please.
Yes. For your keynote for the cancer project, I know that now because we're in advanced digital media, do you think there would be a difference in the way that you would make it? Like, because I saw a lot of like words on your keynote. Is there a different way that you would have done it now versus?
Just for all my artifacts are from my freshman year, so there's a lot. When I look at my stuff, I go, what the heck was I thinking? Because I was looking at my Freedom Means project, and there were so many spelling errors and grammar errors. I was wondering how I even got advanced on it. And with my keynote for my cancer project, yeah, I would change that I had a lot of words, because it could barely fit on the size of the slide, and for some of like the topics I had to add more than sometimes 2 slides at times, and so yeah, I would have changed that. Yes.
I know you chose it because you feel proud about all of them. I'm guessing. Which one was the most fun?
The chase video. The chase video was the most fun for me, because I just got to. It didn't feel like work. It just felt like I was just having fun. Like I would be doing this outside of school, like just doing whatever I wanted to do. Yes, Jay.
Can you show us the rest of the video?
Abby said no. Yes, Joe.
Which artifact did you say you managed projects effectively on?
My Freedom Means.
Okay. As you said, you managed projects effectively, right? But what if something happened, even if you managed the project very effectively? Like, for instance, say you had gotten all of this done, you're gonna awesome keynote, and then like right when you started, your note cards fell out of your hands, and they got all mixed up when you picked them up. How would you deal with that?
Well, I've looked over this keynote like about 100 times, so I'm sure I would still keep my note cards just in case like some things were like there, but I would try to bring it as much as possible, and I'm pretty sure I know what to say sometimes, but I don't think it would be that much of a disaster as you would think. Yes.
For your chase video, the leadership skill is collaborating productively, and you said that you collaborated productively and you had fun doing it because you were with your friends. Do you think you would be able to collaborate productively with others even though you weren't with your friends?
said, I shut down. It was hard for me to work with other people. It still is, and I still need to work on that. But if I wasn't working with my friends, I probably would have had a hard time. But like I said, I got to do whatever I want with this project, so I would try to make it as fun as possible. Like, I would have dealt with other people, even if it was people that I didn't like. I would try to put my differences aside and do the best that I could. Yes.
In what ways do you think you could help yourself to not what can you do for you to get to college? Like, what do you think you can contribute to it? Am I making sense?
I was with you up until you started talking about.
Yeah, there you go.
What?
And what steps can you take to be more knowledgeable, I guess?
And so you're successful to go to college.
Well, like I said, I want to find out. I don't know much about college, so I think I would first start with learning about what happens in college, how college works, what are the things that the requirements to even graduate and get into the type of college that I want to get into. So I think I would start there. It's just finding out more about what goes on in college. Yes.
What specifically are you going to do better to work with others?
What? I couldn't hear the last part.
What specifically are you going to do better to work with others?
Well, I think I should start trying to work with other people. I'm trying to give me a minute. I'm not even sure. I just feel like I should try, because I don't even try to work with other people. I just try and stay away from working with people. When we get group stuff, I ask, can I work by myself a lot? So I'll try and not ask that and try and actually to be with these people, and I just never try, so I figure I should give it a chance. Yes.
Okay, so you talk about the SLC. What do you think, you could contribute to the SLC to make, bigger things to happen to change, school, to make it better?
Well, I feel like I know that I'm going to be moving to upper house soon, but now, as a 10th grader, I feel like lower house complains a lot about a lot of things. I'm not gonna lie, we do. We complain a lot about a lot of things, even when we're the problem sometimes. And I feel like I could be one of those people on the inside and the outside to come back and tell them what the problem is. What do you guys want? What do you guys want us to fix? And go back and tell them this and see how we can do that. I want to let them know what we can do and let them know what they want us to do.
So why don't we open up questions to everybody, because it feels like that's just naturally starting to happen. So anybody now can ask questions.
Yes. I feel welcome. I feel like I have a decent amount of friends.
I remember you wrote in this talking about me, and I really did feel welcome, but because you're telling us that it's hard for you to work with others.
Yeah.
When you say you're feeling welcome, why
Well, when I mean working with others, I mean just academics.
you don't feel comfortable around people?
No, it's not that I don't feel comfortable being around people. It's just with academics, I just want to get my stuff done. I don't want to have to rely on anyone else to do their part, because sometimes I can't. Last year when I was in 9th grade for exhibitions, I got stuck with doing all the work almost by myself. For the first one, we had to do a script, and it was 6 pages, and I did it all by myself. And then the next one, when we created rules, I did have more help than with the first exhibition, but I still felt like the majority of the weight was on my shoulders.
When stuff happens like that, do you feel like you need to go tell the teacher, tell them what's going on?
I do. I I go and tell the teacher this. Well, it's not that. Well, sometimes, yeah, nothing changes. Nothing changes. So I just try to deal with it as best as I can. Because, like I said, I'm trying to keep my frustration in control, and I don't want to get frustrated. So it's like my mother, she has really bad anger management problems, and I just don't want to have to be that way.
Can I do a follow-up to your question with me? So let's look at the flip side of that. So you're working at being better at collaborating with others. What benefits do you see with working with others? Like, and how could you use that either in classroom settings or outside the classroom?
Inside class, even though I don't like to rely on others, for me to have something to fall back on can be a good thing. Like I said, I like to have to go beyond my limit. I like to go beyond my limits, and I try to do too much. And so for there to be someone to fall back on is nice at times. I hate to admit it. And as for outside of class, I don't like my mom to baby me, but she does, and I feel like she likes to do everything with me and just know a lot of stuff, and I have to work with her a lot on just around the house and just with our relationship, period.
First off, I really want to appreciate you. I'm sorry. There was a guy working on the roof, and your ability to just keep going and in that distraction, Jerica, was really impressive. So I just want to appreciate you for that. And because of that, I had to step out several times. So if I'm asking a question that you covered in your presentation, feel free to say, Abby, I actually talked about that, or add to it, or whatever. I want to talk a little bit about your Freedom Means project, because it was really cool to hear you talk about like Socrates and Plato and Aristotle and Taoism and like all this stuff. And you said your claim was about this idea of justice facing reality and something about being in control.
It comes with the responsibilities of justice facing reality, and comes with the responsibility of control.
Okay, cool. Can you explain a little bit more of what you mean with this idea of justice facing reality? I feel like I understand the responsibility of control, but this justice facing reality, and then, if you can, did the thinking that you did around the Freedom Means project change you outside of school in any way, or help you get more clear on something outside of school? Like, did this idea of justice facing reality apply to you outside of the school walls? So what does that mean, justice facing reality to you? And then did it change you outside of school?
Well, with justice, I was trying to tell people that justice can sometimes not be possible because, what justice means to everyone is always different. Like I said, justice is what is supposed to tend to what people want, and not everyone wants the same thing. And with facing reality, I was trying to say that, you know how there's that perfect white picket fence family that everyone thinks is real, it's not real, and then there are people who think it should be real, but sometimes reality is that people who come from broken homes, they like it better. And what you said about outside of school, I didn't really use this outside of school. I used outside of school to do this. I come from a broken family, and I like it better. I have a stepdad, but it's not my real dad. So, but I like it better than having my real dad around.
Thank you.
Yes.
What academic skills can you draw away from some of these artifacts, like for instance your Freedom Means, that you can connect outside of history?
Well, I use the academic skill of analyst, and with analysts, sometimes I feel like I overanalyze things. Like when I'm watching a movie, you know how there's those twists and turns, that you obviously know they're gonna be. Sometimes I think too much about the twists and turns of the ending, and I'll think something just too crazy, and it'll end up being something normal. And sometimes not even just with movies, like just in life in general. Like this portfolio defense, I was overanalyzing it a lot, just kind of psyching myself out. And I think I'm doing better than I thought I was gonna do.
Can you, just building off of that, can you take the same sort of idea of analysis and apply it to a different class? So how have you used analysis in something outside of history?
In English class, we've been doing a lot of analytical paragraph, and like from the beginning of school to now, we're still doing them, and I've been doing a whole lot of analysis through that whole class, just a lot of. My mind's full of analysis, so, and especially with our Antigone essays, that was an analyst essay, and actually our night essays too, and I think my analysis was best there, because actually after the second draft, I had already got a 4, so, and Nikki, my teacher, had told me that I had really gone into depth of, and knew what I was talking about, and knew what I was trying to say. So that's another place where I use analysts. Yes?
Can we talk a little bit about what you feel you need to improve on, like procrastinating, college work habits? What do you feel are your strengths?
Well, I said my strengths was creating meaningful and organized work. I like to think that I'm really organized when it comes to school, because if you looked at my room, you wouldn't think that. But when it comes to school, I feel that I'm organized because I just like to keep everything together. Even when note taking, I can remember that the star is the topic and the bullet point is the subtopic, and then like the dash means it's an example. I just like to keep everything organized in that way. Yes.
You said this phrase that I really liked, Jerica. You said that I don't remember what you were talking about, to be quite honest, but you were talking about, like, not only is it you don't just think outside of the box, you think outside of the room. And I wonder if you could talk a little bit more about what you meant by that, because it really, like, I love that phrase, and I'd love to know more about what you mean.
Because everyone tries to think outside the box, so.
What does that mean, to think outside the box?
Just not think as normally as everyone else does. But when everyone's thinking outside the box, they're all thinking the same thing. So if I think outside the realm, obviously no one else is thinking about that, so yeah.
Can you give an example of when you've done that?
Well, I don't know if this was necessarily thinking outside the realm, but I'd like to think that it was. When in history class, when we were learning about World War I, we had learned these key terms like nationalism, imperialism, industrialization, things like that, and we had to create posters, well, not posters, but just on a regular size white paper, do a drawing that represented these words. And I decided to do actually a whole narrative on a story, and the people's names were actually the countries, and it was like high school prank wars. And so since France and Russia were like the tightest allies in World War I, I did them as like a couple, and they were like the popular couple that were just the most powerful. And then when Franz Ferdinand and I'm not sure if I'm saying his name right. I think it was Piero. I forget his name, but it was Franz Ferdinand and this other guy, and one killed the other, and so the two countries were in conflict, and that was basically what started World War I. So I did them as like one person pranked the other, so they started like a pranking war and started gathering like troops, and when the airplane was created during World War I, I used like the same last name of the person in the story, but like a different first name, and they created an airplane that would drop like bags of poop bombs or something like that. over like the school on like the other opposing team. So yeah, I feel like I thought outside the realm.
That's great. That's a great example.
Yeah.
So 1 or 2 more questions we have time for?
Yes.
You talked about the editing that you had to use in the chase video, and I'm wondering if you could talk about how you might be able to use that editing skill that you developed in the chase video in other academic classes, or even outside of, well, and or in other classes,
And outside the world too.
and yeah.
Well, with editing the chase video, it was just a lot of editing video. But editing in general, I can use anywhere. Like in my English class, for example, a lot of when I write, I'm thinking so fast and I'm trying to write so fast at the same time. I usually leave out a lot of words, like sometimes even whole sentences. And I have to make sure that I reread all of my work, not just once, but sometimes even 3 times, to make sure that all of my mistakes are fixed so I can get it done right the first time. And outside of the world, I do, like I said, I've come to realize that I'm a creative writer, so I do a lot of writing with prompts and things like that. And sometimes first I start off by just not thinking, just writing whatever comes to mind, and then I go back and add things I think I should add, or just take out things that I think are unnecessary.
Okay, I think that is good. Thank you.